Hey. Wow.
My friend and colleague, I love it.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about this, but I've never seen those visual parts of it. It's so moving, you know. And one of the things that I've been thinking about, which is probably really obvious to a lot of people, but I didn't think about till preparing to talk to you tonight, is you can imagine when somebody's about to leave us, you know, pass away. I can imagine, you know, circles of people praying around them, and I'm sure in a lot of these rooms people are singing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
that deep, yes?
Totally. And if you know what music that they loved, it's incredibly meaningful. And we also understand more that even when people don't seem to be hearing you, they are hearing you. So even
The
when
hearing
people
is the last to go.
Right, exactly. So it's very important to think about music. It's embedded in a deeper part of the brain, and it's also in every known mapped area of the brain, which is why it's so powerful.
So it's so complex and yet so simple. I mean, you had people making tones together just now. You have become the chief advocate for arts and healing, and your book, Music and the Mind, is a wonderful entry point for anybody who doesn't know as much as you do right now about how music and art can be utilized for healing. And in fact, I just remember 4 years ago, hearing you and Francis Collins talk, and it was one of the most deep, sort of facile conversations I've ever heard about how art and healing, art and medicine can work hand in hand. But why'd you get so interested in this?
Well, I started myself with issues because I was an innately very shy person, so performing was not particularly natural for me. And I started having horrible bouts of stage fright, but also pain. Pain, which was kind of my body's way of saying, you don't really want to do this. You don't really want to perform. It's too scary. It's too much pressure. And so in order to try and unpack that, I started reading a lot about neuroscience and body-mind connection, John Sarno's work. And I noticed that scientists were studying music in the brain. And so when I met Dr. Collins at this dinner party, I said, can you tell me why? Don't they have better things to do? And he said...
Dr. Collins being the former head of the NIH.
The National Institutes of Health for 12 years.
And a
exactly.
musician.
Yeah, a wonderful musician, triple threat. So yeah, I had just started as an advisor to the Kennedy Center, and I said, could we provide a platform for the science? Because I really think the audience would want to hear this. I think they would find it as interesting as I do. I didn't know anything. So, and we've been on this journey ever since. It was about 2017 that we started really kind of getting out there and creating these events where we shared the science.
But back to your origin story with this, is there anything you can tell any of us who might have stage fright or be very shy about what to do? Did you learn any methodologies? I
did. I had to, you know, survive it and keep performing. First, I had people around me who would not let me stop, because if you stop, it's going to be maybe a really long time before you can go back. So, and we've seen that with some very famous people. So I learned that there's a behavioral piece that you have to understand and learn about. You know, what now I would say CBT, what are you thinking that's making this seem so frightening? Why I felt the audience was judging me. So I felt this negative energy coming from the audience at me, as if everybody was a critic. And at the same time, I read this book. It was an autobiography by Beverly Sills on public speaking. And she said something that just turned it all around. She said she saw herself as a benevolent figure. And so once I said, oh, wait, no, let me have the energy go this way so that I'm sharing something. I'm a conduit for this creation that someone made or people made. And what a gift that I can just allow this to pass through me. And that the combination of those two things, figuring out what the root of it is, and seeing behaviorally the experience as something different, made that I could do it again. Took about 8 months.
But that's just so practical for any of you out there who have a fear of public speaking. You know, it's coming through you. Something of great value is coming through you. You know, the one thing that occurs when I look up stuff on you is that you had your they did an MRI of you, and what they learned was that imagining singing had more effects than actual singing. But nobody parses that out. So why is that? Imagining singing?
It's true. The experiment had me, I was in an MRI machine for 2 hours. So this was an fMRI experiment, which is a functional MRI, which measures oxygen in the brain. And so imagining singing activated more parts of my brain than the other two. And they said, finally, it's because you're a singer, so singing for you is second nature. And, you know, they would have had to have had another experiment right after that with a non-singer to prove that theory. And the other thing is, being in the machine for 2 hours and repeating the experiment 13 times in each way, and people say, oh my God, you were in an MRI machine for 2 hours? I said, yes, have you ever flown economy? It's really the same thing. So
no, it's not. I mean, so this is how dedicated you are to offer us something about this.
Yeah, no, it was a really interesting experiment. I'm not doing it again. Soprano laugh.
The opposite of that, of being alone in an MRI machine, of course, is your idea of music as a form of social cohesion. And there's nothing more important, I think, for us in the world right now, and certainly in this country, than ways of getting to social cohesion. And you once said that engagement with music brings people back to themselves. Talk about that.
Well,
coming back to the self.
Art in general, just looking at, say, the Grand Canyon, you would think, because it inspires awe, transcendence, these big feelings. It makes us feel very small. Or the ocean, how, in contrast to that, in fact, it makes us feel more connected to other people because we share this historically in our DNA. And so I think art does that to us. It does make us feel more connected. I know I feel that when I see your theater pieces. I understand, I have empathy, we have all of these positive feelings because of what you create.
But if it's in our DNA, I guess then it means it makes us, one of the things that separates us from the other creatures, right?
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, my dog does howl sometimes. I wish she did it more often. But sometimes she greets...
Does she howl with you?
No, but I wish she would. But it's very random. She howls when some people enter. It's very, very
That's so interesting.
Yes. But
some people inspire howling in her. So Ani Patel at Tufts has been doing a lot of experiments with animals, and recently it's been dogs howling. And he was looking for people who had dogs who could howl and change key so that they could change key with the owner, because he wanted to know how kind of sophisticated the howling was. So I don't know where he is with that experiment. But in fact, birds are the only other vocal learners. And primates don't really share any of these musical components, not rhythm and not pitch.
Not even chimpanzees? They don't?
Nope. No.
They don't sing.
There aren't that, animals, cockatoos have very sophisticated, and birds have parrots have sophisticated movement to rhythm. That's a good video. I could have shown you in the long version, but there you can find it all on YouTube.
Wow. Well, so $40 million. Where is this going to go? I mean, I don't really like questions like that, but what are some of the things that you hope are going to unravel and be revealed? I mean, by the way, what I love about what you're doing is that it's not so often we want to talk about the fact that dance can help people do math or acting can teach empathy because we want a reason to raise money for the arts. But you're doing something so much more than that. It's not just a campaign to argue for the importance of music in our lives, right?
No, it is, I believe that because I'm an artist, but no, I think that we should have the arts. So the Neuro Arts Blueprint is the place to go if you want to see the vision. It's the last chapter in my book also. But basically, we want to see the arts embedded in healthcare because we have strong interventions now. There's a lot of proof around, for instance, aphasia. With one music therapy session, somebody can regain speech. A woman told the most incredible story a few weeks ago at an event in New York. She just said, I want to understand this. My husband had total aphasia. He did not say a word for 2 years. And randomly, I took him to a Bach concert. And he spoke for 45 minutes about Bach, out of nowhere. He loved Bach. So it triggered a kind of a connection, a neural connection that did not exist before that moment. So with stroke or traumatic brain injury, most people don't know this exists and that it would work in this way. So there are certain interventions, but there's also this component when people have pain, when they're dying, cancer patients, their families in the hospital. It enables them, having been traumatized. One family lost one child and was about to lose another to a rare disease, and they created songs, to remember these kids by, to connect them. There are just healing proponents. And from theater, of course, it absolutely works. Visual art, if you have a painting in a hospital room, your stay will be an average of 2 days shorter.
But it's also, just think about a singing hospital. I actually had an opportunity when I was writing a play about health care, Let Me Down Easy, to spend some real substantive time at MD Anderson Hospital in Houston, Texas. I don't know if you went there. And they were back then in the mid, 2008, they're really there. They were really there in terms of particularly palliative care, thinking of ways that aren't just about pathology.
Yeah, absolutely. Palliative care is such an important area, dementia, elder care in general. And, it was only in the 70s that if you had dementia, you were in a ward, your hands were tied to the wheelchair, you were given no stimulation. And ideally, they would drug you a lot. So it was Oliver Sacks with Connie Tomeno, who's up in Mount Vernon, who started this neurological function group. And now they have discovered so much, and music in particular can be very healing for those patients. So
it's also maybe that music is, number one, it's beyond language. Right. In the theater, we're trapped in language. You sing in different languages, but we can go beyond that just with making the tones, and it doesn't require physical prowess, something like that. For you, it does. To do an opera, and somewhere, singing helps people get their heart rate up and stuff like that.
Right.
But of the different disciplines, it seems the most accessible at the same time that you talk about it being the most complex.
Well, it's interesting because for cardiac failure, for instance, if you sing a couple times a week, your vascular function improves. So because for that particular population, it's exercise. Like you said, it's, this is a sedentary population. So, for me, it's exercise, but it's a different type of singing. So yeah, there's no question that a lot of this, and of course, movement and music are especially powerful. But yeah, I just think the benefit, there's enough science already for us to start really having this happen. We have creative arts therapists, but they're not licensed. They're only licensed in 12 states. Oh. And we need, for this to be kind of universal, countrywide, for people to also respect what we bring to the table, what these incredible artists bring to the table.
Well, there's that big brainiac who used to be the head of the NIH for how many presidents? Francis Collins,
yeah.
And he certainly believed in it. It helped that his mother was a playwright, by the way, I think.
Yes, and words are so ancient. Poetry has the same response in the brain as music. It's very similar. It goes back as far. And, before written history, you had to remember songs to know anybody's history.
You're talking about healing in this way of hospitals And although you're talking about social cohesion, and of course, as one of the world's greatest divas, and I mean that in the best sense of the word, and we'll come around to that before we leave today, but you know, you've also had to bring that healing to larger groups, from funerals. I'm sure you've sang many renditions of Ave Maria and other things at funerals, and you sang right across the plaza after 9/11, a month after the attack. Talk about that. What was that? What's that like? What's that? The responsibility to sing after such a tragedy. Talk about that. How did you prepare for it? What did it feel like?
Well, it was Amazing Grace, and there was still a huge amount of smoke coming out of the site. And I sang for 9,000 people who were all the families of the victims. And I knew this was going to be hard. And I knew that I had to be contained and poised so they could have the experience that they needed to have. So I practiced every night that week in my home for an hour, just singing it over and over again, trying to imagine what it would be like. And of course you can't really imagine it. And it was so hard. And I can still see them. I can see the people. And this was, you know, a long time ago.
And it must have changed your idea about the meaning of that classical song,
right.
Amazing Grace. Did it change
Yes.
for you how the meaning of those words came out of your mouth?
Well, there are these songs that are universal, and that's one of them. In my history, it's that, it's Ave Maria, it's Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
Yeah.
It's pretty universal now, that song. And maybe O mio bambino caro, the aria. So for my voice and my history, those are the songs. Yeah, I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if the melody or the history of the song in our lives makes a difference.
Well, I'll have one quick thing to say about Amazing Grace, and then I want to take some questions from you to see where you are, and then we'll wrap it up. But you know that I was very close to the late Jessie Norman.
Oh,
and
yes,
her
yes.
theory about Amazing Grace is, we know that this was an English ship captain who had been taking slaves across, and he had this, well, intervention by God, I guess. He was religious. He became a Christian evangelist. And the song is credited to the Welsh and the Scottish. The tune, he wrote the words, but the tune is credited to the Welsh and the Scottish. And Miss Norman's idea is that, but who was in the bowels of those ships? And she thinks that he heard Africans singing tunes that have the structure of Amazing Grace. I'll send you I interviewed her. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please. Yeah, goosebumps.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that it's...
What are your songs?
Well, Amazing Grace is pretty powerful. Hallelujah. Certainly, I think all the ones that you say have that deep, deep connection, and they somehow manage to cross culture. Yeah. But let's take a question or two, and please bring the lights up for this so that we have somebody right in the front row who wants to ask a question. If we could get a mic over there.
Mics are over
Oh,
here.
you have to walk over there. Oh, we'll go right ahead. I thought they were going to, this was customer service. I'm on the board of this organization. You don't strike me as the type of person who gets annoyed by a question.
Not usually, no.
Not usually.
I have to give myself an out.
First of all, I'm a theater addict. I go to a minimum of 10 plays a week. So I thrive on intellectual learning. Music is alien to me. So what my question is, if we had a visitor from a place devoid of music, how would you explain what music is? Is there a definition? Has anybody tried to define music?
Well, I'm sure that many people have, and I'm sure speech has an absolute musicality to it. Just the pitch that I'm using right now, the rhythm, Shakespeare is very musical. So
I
it's just,
worship Shakespeare.
sorry?
I worship Shakespeare.
Yes. Oh, good. So I picked the right playwright. But you just kind of step it up, you know.
No,
and
but
then you
I'm a
have,
person of definitions. I need definitions. So I'm just wondering, has anybody attempted to define music?
I think if you Googled it, you would probably find a definition.
Okay,
But I didn't bring that with me today, so.
Thank you. Do we have one other question right now? Or do you need more information to ask questions? Here's someone over here. They really make you get up and show who you are.
Yeah, I think if you
talk
just
here.
line up, it's the easiest way to do it, and
Oh,
then we
yeah.
can go boom, boom, boom.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
You look like a young, vital audience.
Oh, well, we're not going to be able to do all these, so
we can go. We
we'll
can
have
do
to
it.
pick one.
Questions are fun. Okay.
I mean, in women's health, a lot of women are having breast cancers and open heart surgeries. How does music play a part during surgery when surgeons are performing surgeries?
So
That's a good question.
I only briefly said that pain is a really strong area of research. Actually, Francis Collins just told me this story 2 days ago, that he thought he was having a procedure and he said, I'm going to be my own guinea pig. And he played a song, and unfortunately I don't remember exactly what the songs were. I do remember the third one. And he said, you know, it helped. It took the edge off, helped a little bit. And he went, well, let me try something else. And he played something a little bit more meaningful. It has to be something that means something to you, that's emotional.
I thought
It's all individual. So you bring your playlist, anybody who's dealing with this, and that was better. And then he listened to a full-blown medieval organ, you know, concerto. He was a pump organist and gave his first recital at 6 years old, and he said that blew the pain out of the water. So it's like my friend with Jimi Hendrix. It's what works for you.
I think it would help the surgeon. The other question is that I go for physical therapy twice a week, and it's near Columbus Circle where all the artists go. And he plays classical music right through to physical therapy, and it really helps.
Oh, good. Well, see, then that works for you. And it can reduce pain by something like 30%, I think. You know, it's the equivalent of taking sort of an over-the-counter pain relief. So we're not making crazy claims here.
Hi. It's actually like one question and a favor. Love your book. And it inspired me, like I'm about to finish my Master's of Science in Clinical Research, to write my master thesis about that topic. Where would I go to get further information, like scientific information about this whole topic?
So I would definitely go to the Sound Health Network. It's based at UCSF, and there are tons of books out now. I don't know if we had a slide showing them, but the Sound Health Network is a really great place to go because you can just search on the website. And the NeuroArts Resource Center, which will be a global network, including all of the arts, I think it's going to have a soft launch in December and then a real launch in January. So since the beginning, I just said we have to have a place for people to go to look these things up.
100%.
Dan Levitin has a brand new book out called "They Say There Was a Secret Chord." You know, speaking of Hallelujah. So there are a lot of things out there, and that book, of course,
Thank you so much.
I mean, you can just look up those writers.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And the favor is like, would you mind signing it? Can I do that? I don't even know.
Not now, no, not now.
Okay.
Yeah. At the end, I'm happy to sign it. Happy to sign it.
Hello. One of my go-to albums is Dark Hope.
Really?
Yes, I
Thank
absolutely love
you.
it. And it's a healing album for me. I find myself sometimes in a mood where it doesn't lift me out of the mood, it helps me move through the mood.
Great.
And I have always been curious what brought you to that project, and if it's not too personal, was there healing that you found through that project?
So this is a quirky story. Dark Hope is a rock album that I made. Peter Mensch manages Metallica and tons of bands. And he pitched this to me and said, I think it was, there was another artist who had done a whole album of John Prine songs. And that was the template. So he said, I want you to sing music of young songwriters. And so it was a really fun project. I mean, I really enjoyed doing it. You had Arcade Fire and all, and Peter Gabriel and a lot of interesting artists on this. And You know, I enjoy doing it, and it's all 7 of the 50 verses of Hallelujah are on it too. But I don't think it didn't really find an audience. So I learned from that if it had been older songwriters, if it had been songwriters from my generation, we'd have had better luck. Because even when you think about Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga,
Yeah.
they had difficulty in arenas.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't enough. There has to be overlap with the audience for these things to work well. But I'm glad you like it.
Well, thank you for making it. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes.
So I have a question about the music business, and just kind of because music is such a subjective art form as well as theater, have you had to deal with any kind of politics when moving through this industry? And like, how have you dealt with those? Are there any like special ways you do it, or?
I assume you mean music business politics, not real world
Yes,
politics.
yes.
Absolutely, you know, it's everywhere. It's part of the human condition. I have to say, you learn to sort of, you know, in our world, when I was younger, now it's changed, but conductors you had to kind of walk very gently around conductors because they were the leaders, and sometimes they would ask things of you that were not a great fit for your voice or your temperament or something, and you just had to find really interesting, you know, kind of dance of anger styles of way of asking for things that were like, you know, it's really my problem. I just couldn't sing that very well, and do you think we could take it a little faster? You know, these kinds of ways of handling it. And another person gave me great advice when I was at the part of the Met competition. I just said, it was Joan Dornaman. And I said, I'm just so intimidated by everyone. She said, I'm going to give you a tip. First day of rehearsal, first week of rehearsal, find a moment, you know, honestly and sort of quietly to tell everyone in the room something wonderful about what you think they're doing.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's
how
excellent
to make friends.
advice.
How to make friends, exactly. It worked so well. Even if I was afraid to talk to them, it was remarkable how people just
I want to
relaxed.
say something about that because I want to talk about, before we go, about how women have to try to manage power. And I went back and looked at something that never left my mind, a Ted Koppel show called Prima Donna. And in it, you know, it was all about divas. All about divas. And in it, Beverly Sills says the following: the image of ladies who have lots of high notes is really an inaccurate image. We're rather intelligent people with families and children to raise and roles to learn. And when I retired, I knew 120 operas cold. That's a lot to store up in a memory. And you have about 60 operas or more that you know that are all inside your brain. And so yet, every once in a while, and I'm the first to lead the charge. If I hear that word diva about a woman, I go nuts and try to correct people. Nonetheless, I mean, it's a word that gets a bad name, but it does indicate a lot of power and accomplishment. So you have become an American ambassador to the world in your music, in your voice, in your presence. What advice would you give to women moving into positions of power, future female leaders of our country?
Yeah, let's hope, yeah. Okay.
Who will have to navigate, they have to stand on the world stage of history.
Right.
And you've done that. What would you say to a woman moving into that global terrain? What advice?
Well, let me just go. The history of diva, the word, was stemmed for Sarah Bernhardt, the great French actress in the late 19th century, early 20th century. And there was a big exhibit on her in Paris about a year and a half ago, and she was, I mean, she made Maria Callas look like a cabaret singer. Her life, her whole life, the length of her life, the amount that she did, the ego, the charisma, and it helps. It helps to be narcissistic. I think that really helps, honestly. But if you're not, and in fact but you are astute about the human condition, then you can definitely set yourself up for success. So, you know, within 5 minutes of her success, for instance, Sopranos in Paris went, no, we're getting this diva title. No, we're taking it over. So it belonged to opera singers for a century, and now diva became a kind of a description of bad behavior, as you said, right? In addition, but the word means goddess. It means goddess. So we want to be a deity. But I think of, for me, the quintessential leader, and she had work to do to get there, was Angela Merkel in Germany.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I got to meet her. I was invited to a party after the commemoration of the fall of the Velvet Revolution, 20th year. Fall of the Berlin Wall. That was a different one. And so I thought, oh, it's going to be 1,000 people there. It's, you know, it's going to be too loud. I have to protect my voice. It was just us, 4 singers, and Angela Merkel and her husband. And we talked for 2 hours. I speak fluent German because I studied there. I had a Fulbright scholarship. And she talked honestly about how she dealt with Putin, everything about her experience, whatever questions we wanted to ask. Alina Garancha was with me. And her German was even better than mine. And she was so concerned at the time about her country. So it was just a fascinating experience, but you saw the honesty of this person and no fear. But what she said, which her husband actually told my husband, said, her success is because she was better prepared than anyone else in the room, ever. She acknowledged that Putin had better language skill. His German was better than her Russian, but in terms of preparation, no one could beat her. So unfortunately, and women have to get up an hour earlier and do their hair and makeup. And, you know, it's always harder. So hopefully that will change at some point. And hopefully, I'm shocked that we still don't have a woman president. That was my dream as a little girl, was to be First Lady President. That's what I wanted to be.
You want to be First Lady of the United States?
I did.
A singing president. Wouldn't that be something?
Well, it would have been a different path, but it's pretty shocking that I'm old, you know, and we still don't have it. So please, Kamala, please make it. Yeah, we need that.
But the advice is preparation. Preparation.
It is. It's hard work, it's preparation, and we don't have the club. We don't have the tribe. The tribe is not women at the top, it's men. It's still men. So
do you still go around the room and say something nice to everybody in the room? Do you still do that on the first day of anything? It's still a good strategy. If I'm intimidated, then I try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, and how many operas do you know in your head?
I've sung about 56 roles, but I sing mostly concert repertoire. I've done, 100 recital programs, more, all those languages, from Elvis to Russian to Portuguese. Those are the hard ones.
How has that affected your mind? Other than that you have
Well, the thing is, when I know something well, it's muscle memory, and then I don't have to think about it. So it's interesting about, I totally believe that these things will come out of us at a certain point. Well, I'll be singing really hard operas when I'm in elder care someday.
I can't wait. I want to come visit if I'm alive. Let me tell you about that. So you said also something. I got to ask you this one thing that's always been a curiosity to me. I just thought of it just now. The first time I ever saw you live was at a relatively small dinner at the Museum of Modern Art. And I was sitting right where, and it can't be fun to sing in these places with acoustics like that, but I was sitting right near where you were coming out. I didn't know you were coming out there. But you looked like a lion. And you made a gesture like this. You went just like this. You went like that. And then you walked on stage. Huh. Do you have is it so now you just walk out? Or do you have any kind of preparation like the second before?
Not really. No, it depends on the situation. It depends on my nerves. Focus is incredibly important. I have to absolutely we're in the zone. If I'm performing well, I'm in a flow state, which is wonderful. It's a great feeling, especially the music I sing, which is a lot of it is long, sustained phrases, Strauss. That's what it is. So it's that mental focus. It's really important. But so can we talk about you for a minute?
No, they're going to make us get out of here. But the next time we can talk about me.
Now,
But
come
you do
on,
have
just
to,
a
you do have.
I got her to do her first opera libretto for a fabulous piece called Proximity. I said, please do what you do, but do it in Chicago, about all of the social issues that we have, about the intractable violence, et cetera. She wrote this piece. I read the libretto before it was ever set to music and was just sobbing. She has this ability to bring understanding and empathy to everything she touches. And now she's going to do another one. I'm so happy. I got you on this journey.
She got me on a journey of writing librettos. So here's the point. Can you imagine a day when a doctor would write a prescription for you to go and sing in a choir and health insurance would cover it?
It's happening. It's happening, yes.
already?
Yes, absolutely. It's happening. In fact, in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island, there are, I think, there are a couple other states, and then, of course, the UK has had this arts on prescription. Canada, a doctor can give you a free pass to a national park. It's the way to go. It's the future. Somebody explained to me in the UK, he said, you know, a lot of times people come in to see a doctor, but they're really lonely, or they're really,
Vivek
Yeah.
Murthy.
Yeah, and so, our healthcare system is so burdened that we now have a concierge system, which is like, I'm going to give you a prescription to go join these 3 groups, and then come back. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. We need human connection so much, and we don't have it if we're only engaged with our phones. And unfortunately, somebody said to me the other night about our kids. He said, "We gambled on our children, and we've lost. We allowed them to have these access to these highly addictive sites that kind of have shortened their attention span to the point where, I don't know if you saw the article, that kids are going to even Ivy League schools and they've never read a whole book. And, I don't know where this is all going, but it's not good."
Well, you're doing your part to bring us together, to create social cohesion. And before you all leave the building on the lobby stage, please enjoy a performance by international music icon Baba Mal. But before that, would you please thank our civic engagement with healing and music
Thank you so much.
for everything she's doing.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks to Anna DeVere Smith. Icon. Talk about icon.